pleasure to introduce Gudor Botond from Alba Iulia in Romania. He's a respected theologian known for his work on the history of Protestantism and religious minorities in Central and Eastern Europe. We're glad to have him here. Welcome, Gudor.
Dear conference, ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy to speak after the doyen of the subject here, but it's comfortable because if I see well, we have many people from Alvinz here, Hoffers, Stahl, Kleinsasser, Schillinger, and I am glad to see that. I try to follow my presentation in order to present you what is very specific for Alvinz communities, especially for that side of history what is well known, and maybe one part is not better known, but anyway. The history of the Haban's community of Alvinz far surpasses the history of Alvinz and the principality itself. It is story of martyrdom, community, and theological history that via Transylvania continues to shape the face of the new world to these days. Under the pressure of the Habsburg Counter-Reformation, the Hutterite Anabaptist fled from the northern region of Moravia and northern Slovakia, former Upper Hungary, to Transylvania, in developing genuine group cohesion as they escape a flight that was both organized and guided. I would like to speak a little bit about the beginnings. This process includes the relationship they developed with Prince Gabriel or Gábor Bethlen around their settlements and his invitation to them. In 1619, a group of Hutterites provide food for Bethlen's troops, 10,000 people, stationed in Neumühl, Nové Mlyny, today in Czech Republic. During the era of religious persecution and the 30 Years' War, not only political figures, but also Anabaptist theology and literature regarded, in an almost utopian sense, Hungary and later Transylvania, alongside the Netherlands, as a perfect society where the Hutterites movement's theological and social vision could flourish under ideal conditions. Historian Norbert Dann credited the invitation of the Hutterites primarily to Simon Pécsi, the Transylvanian Sabbatarian chancellor, who, in the context of the 30 Years' War, was exceeding active even among the persecuted Moravian Protestants in order to develop these former Upper Hungarian businesses, ventures, banking transactions, honey trade, mining, and inviting craftsmen onto his estates. The Transylvanian force had also been stationed at Neumühl a year earlier, in 1690s, in 1620s as well, where the Anabaptists supplied them with basic foodstuffs and drinks. In autumn's 1620, before the Battle of White Mountain, Pécsi went back to Nové Mlyny to convince the Hutterites people, craftsmen, and merchants of the timeliness of relocating to Transylvania. In the spring of 1621, he stayed at the Hutterite settlements that had been exposed to the religious persecution of the Bishop of Nitra at Kasta, Kosolna, Vitens, Sobotiste, and Velke Levare, this time amid the general despair of the Habans. Among these settlements, Sobotiste became the persecuted Hutterites' temporary sanctuary, where being billeted together with princely mercenaries, they could experience both the soldiers' protection and, at the same time, the bitter obligation of supplying the army. The invitation in Alvinz is appearing in the Chronics of Haban's in a very well-known sentence at the beginning of 1621. A certain Simon, but it's not a good name there, Pécsi, the chancellor, came from Transylvania and he invited them. That is a quotation from there. The successful eradication of their settlements marked the end of the century-long golden age of the Anabaptists in Moravia. The Anabaptist communities that were forced to disband migrated to former Upper Hungary. Because their persecution and the practice of their crafts, the Hutterites were known to Prince Gabor Bethlen, to devote Reformed prince who has seized the city of Bratislava. Finding themselves in a political and religious danger, the communities could reasonably count on the protection of country and the ruler generally known for tolerance. Their invitation was initiated by the prince himself, who, even while ill considered, it his heartfelt concern to sustain, rescue, and increase the Anabaptist settlements, thereby enriching Transylvania by doing so. The Transylvanian prince, who invited them for pragmatic reasons, brought them to Transylvania with a military escort without too much consultation. The heightened jeopardy of the Anabaptist settlements led to an invitation born of princely will and pragmatic economic reason, which granted the exiled Habans the right to reside in Transylvania, freedom of worship, certain trading privileges, as well as specific obligations. Despite their forced departure, the Haban settlers arrived in Transylvania with the spirit of new promised land. The community, which was both invited and forced to flee, departed from Transylvania on January 18, 1621, along with the returning Transylvania soldiers in grueling forced march. An 8-point salvus conductus, that is a set of princely promise, was drawn up for them. With this assurance, the first Haban settlers, approximately 200 peoples on small 18 group, together with 70 soldiers, were able to depart from Slovakia and Moravia. The princely promise communicated on their departure were also recorded in a separate princely letter in 4 of July, 1622. It's not easy to discuss about that because in the princely letter is a sentence, Moravian fratres, brothers Moravian, for which reason it's a large dispute in Hungarian literature about what language they are speaking them. But from a linguistic and social perspective, the Habans of Alvinz were Germans of Moravian origin, who had previously moved from Upper Styria and Switzerland into regions inhabited by Czech and Moravians, and later by Slovaks, Hungarians, and Germans. Their life in Alvinz is described in detail by the chronicles. We find chronicles in Alba Iulia, in Gyulafehérvár, in Batyáneum, in Nitra, in United States as well, and in many other places. Settlers arrived in Cluj from northern Slovakia with two occasions, between January 22 and 24, and later on March. The unit was together with the Hungarian army. One of the peasants who followed the groups was Prince Betlen's Haban physician, Albrecht Bolsterk. They likely came via multiple routes and multiple groups by Christmas until the springs, and they have a very long way until the end of the road. Another person who invited them was Princess Susanna Karoli, who, again, being treated by the Haban physician Sebastian Dietrich, who visited the refugees and arrived somewhat later than they, on August 31. And they have a very good place near Castle of Martinuzzi, named Castle of Martinuzzi, and near Reformed Church, in the curve of Maros in Vincu. And they had permission to build up their private lodges and private homes. And a quotation, there will be placed among both the Saxons and the nobility, and they can go to the work among them. I go further because the time is running. The harm of the Saxon merchants, because they are settlements, and their economic interest indicated the importance of the settlements and the industry, not only of the Habans, but in the same time of the Jewish people who was invited from Constantinople by the same princeps. Saxon manufactured goods, which created a crisis in Saxon-Hungarian relations and urged the establishment of new commercial balance. The economic policy of the Principality enriched Transylvania with 3 new special actors: Hutterite artisans, Jewish traders, and Greek merchants. Oops, back. Here is the Chronicle of Sorrows, wrote by Solardi, which mentions the exact place and the rights of the Hutterites in Transylvania. It's a very important historian of Hungarians. Gábor Betlen, or Gabriel Betlen, formulated their charter of privilege, and you can read it, and I don't read it because the time is running. And it's fratres moravicis, that is the sentence with the problem. And reinforced this charter of privilege in 1625. And after that, the second article of the Diet of Cluj-Kolozsvár approved all the agreement with Anabaptist for freely practice their religion according to their customs, and no one shall disturb them in that. After that period, when they arrived, in few weeks, the Jesuit residence of Alba, which was invested in missions, regarded the Anabaptist as a mission target shortly after they arrived in Alvinz. They are trying to conversion their physician in Zlatna, and few years later, Bosnian observant Franciscans carrying out missions in Transylvania also took notice of their presence among them. Serafim Kun, a monk from Hunedoara in Hungarian Hunyad, mentioned their presence within Transylvania remarkable diverse denomination spectrum. And later on, George Rákóczi I reinforced that principle will, and here is the name of all the people who support the Anabaptist settlers, even from Brandenburg, wife of Gabriel Bethlen Prince, and George Rákóczi the second, and the last one, it's Opofi and Leopold I from Vienna. Okay, you can push a little bit to see where is a film. Okay, just few seconds. It's behind of the Reformed Church, was behind the settlements, because Maros flooded for many times in that years. We don't find any buildings. It's 2.5 meter mud on the original building, but that is the Reformed Church nearby. Okay, thank you. If we would like to find the place, it's somewhere here. It's the old Josephine map of Transylvania. We have three type of map. I suppose it's that, but maybe somebody is more clever than me in maps, and just tell me. But in that time, the map is from that period when Delphini do his mission, okay, and it's more exist. The communities had a secular economic leader, a cellar master, an economic manager, Haushalter, and a procurement officer, Einkäufer. The most esteemed minister were addressed with the title Diener des Evangelium, and these were confirmed at Sobotiszte for pastoral service in Vinc. The succession of pastors of Hutterite community of Alvinz was recorded in high valuable 17th century document from Alba Iulia from my archive. On the May 9, 1662, the Alvinz community engaged an active correspondence with Sebastian Wiedermeyer, a theologian living in Novemlini, whom they wished to invite as their pastor. The elder of the Alvinz house Haban visited, invited, and recommended the candidate. The letter of appointment was issued by Isaiah May and Andreas Roseberger, elders and craftsmen of the Bruderhof in Alvinz, who had returned to Kostritz-Neumühl, their former place of residence, to find a suitable future pastor for Alvinz community. And I would like to thank your help to make a transcription of this. This is the letter. What is about? Is a description of the network, how it's working Alvinz community with the old, in relation with the old Deir community. Okay, I try to reconstruct a little bit the Bruderhof with the help of historical description, and we can find some buildings similar to the first image. And I try to get in the end. We have a description of their life on Behrandi Mishki, Turkish historian letter, who was historian in Damascus of the Turkish Empire. It's very interesting, but it's a lot of mistakes in what is followed down. I don't quote this. And what is more interesting for Alvinz community, they are not only a house Haban and place where are living, but a fortress. They are harmless and humble people, but the prince gave them the fortress, and they are safe together in the fortress together with the people from Alvinz. They are just build up the buildings, and they are provide the foods, and the rest of the people, Hungarian people, organize the defense of the castles. And this is the text of agreement between the local village and the community. We speak a lot about the crafts and craftsmen. I don't want to repeat this. And there is the industry, the house and the castle propriety all together, what is characterized the Bruderhof community. They are very clever. Even if it's not possible to be part in the war, they was attacked by the Turks twice, in 1658, in 1662, and they have a very, very good tactic to avoid the Turkish pressures. You can find here the logistic of Haban's. We didn't have time to explain what they are doing. And at the end, the Catholic missions, the Jesuit, the Franciscan, and the Bulgarian Franciscans, we know just one, usually just Delphini and the Jesuit, but we have three kind of missions. All of three was focusing on their community. And before that, we heard about trans migrants, not only the people from Romos are coming, but we have many other communities along of road, Alba Iulia and Orăștie and Sibiu, who was part of this story. Not only Romos community in my knowledge. In Delphini mission, we have a description of how is developing the mission stories, but it's a moment to have a perspective how is looking the sermon in the common spaces. You can see Delphini doing in the same way than Hutterites, the mission in the beginning. He ended with the army that. And the migration trace you see, and this is the great family of Hutterites. I wish you to be united. Because I have a good example in Transylvania. Even in Northern Europe, the Reformed have many churches in Netherlands. In Transylvania, even in Hungary, we have only one. It's not easy to maintain, but with God's helps, everything is possible, you know. And conclusions, what is the impact of the community? We haven't only one, we have 3 or 4 around of Transylvania. Is effect on economical history, in art and industrial history, in folk cultures, even in historiography, in theology, and in riverbank agriculture, and is a lot of things in religious tolerance and even in tolerance history. Thank you. And if you have questions, I'm open to them.